In every man's life, there comes that special, almost elusive moment when the relationship dynamics undergo a fundamental shift. This is the instant when a woman moves from superficial curiosity to deep emotional dependence, when she stops considering other options and begins to see you as the center of her world. Yesterday, she might have played it with cold detachment, but today she checks her phone every 5 minutes, waiting for your notification. Most men, unfortunately, never reach this point because from the very first day, they make the same mistake. They try too hard. They write messages that are too long, reveal their souls too early, show excessive care, and turn the woman into the sole meaning of their existence. However, the few who truly understand the hidden springs of female psychology know that attachment is created not through pushiness, but through the proper management of one's presence and an absence of fuss. The foundation of any magnetic attraction is the mystery factor which forces the imagination to work over time. When a man represents an open book and lays out his entire life story, his fears and achievements in the very first week of knowing someone, he robs the woman of the most fascinating process, the process of discovery. If you read the last page of a book immediately, the interest in reading vanishes instantly. Those who know how to reveal themselves gradually, layer by layer, much like peeling an exotic fruit, maintain a constant level of dopamine anticipation in the female brain. In the absence of full information, her mind begins to fill in the blanks itself, and as a rule, her fantasy creates an image much more intriguing and grander than any dry reality. Let us recall the story of Brandon, who was used to sending Sarah entire walls of text about how his day went, his dreams and philosophical reflections. He thought he was building a deep connection, but in reality, he was simply overloading her with his world, leaving no room for her own contribution. Sarah was losing interest because she felt that the prize had already been won, and there was no journey ahead. When Brandon, on my advice, reduced the intensity of communication by 80%, stopped explaining his every action, and began to respond briefly but warmly, the situation changed radically. A month later, Sarah herself began to write to him first, ask questions, and try to understand what he thinks about when he is silent. She began to invest her emotional energy into solving him, and it was this investment that created that very invisible thread of attachment. Digital communication in the modern world often becomes that very barrier against which the chances of most men are shattered even before the relationship has time to begin. A huge mistake is to start writing as if your survival depends on it. Endless wishes of good morning, reports on every lunch eaten, and nighttime correspondences create an illusion of closeness. But in fact, they destroy attraction faster than you can press the send button. In a woman's perception, excessive attention from a man she doesn't even really know yet is read as a lack of other affairs, interests, and goals. The first message may cause a smile, the fifth in an hour slight bewilderment, and the 10th a desire to put the phone away. By the third day of such a siege, a man turns from a potential companion into a pushy acquaintance, and it is practically impossible to get out of this category. It is important to understand that the modern world of dating is oversaturated with attention. A beautiful woman receives dozens of notifications daily, and your thoughtful message competes with a huge number of similar attempts. Men who achieve success realize that in this economy of attention, value is created not by abundance, but by scarcity. While others write novels, they limit themselves to a couple of concise sentences. While others respond instantly, they give themselves time to go about their business and return to the dialogue after a few hours or even the next day. A delay in response does not mean a loss of interest. It broadcasts confidence. It says that you have a full life in which the phone is only a tool, not a way to obtain confirmation of your own significance. Most men fall into a panic if they do not receive a response within a couple of hours and begin to analyze every word, sending clarifying messages that literally scream of internal insecurity. In reality, anything could be behind this silence: work on an important project, a meeting with friends, or simply a need for quiet. Sometimes it can also be an unconscious test of strength, an attempt to see how easy it is to throw you off balance with silence. Your reaction to this silence determines your status in her eyes. The ability to send a message and calmly forget about it until there is time to check the phone is a rare advantage that separates a mature man from one who is in a perpetual search for external approval. A woman's feelings can fluctuate like the weather, and this is a normal process that does not always yield to logical analysis. One day she can be open and tender because she received praise at work, and on another cold and detached because of a minor nuisance or a bad sleep. The mistake of many men is that they perceive these fluctuations as a direct report on their value and begin to frantically fix a situation that does not need fixing. If she pulls away and you respond by trying even harder, you only confirm your dependence. The right approach is to remain that very calm center in the middle of any emotional storm. When she sees that her temporary coldness does not cause you anxiety or aggression, she begins to feel in you that very reliable support that she wants to return to again and again. Resilience tests are a natural part of the process of becoming closer. She may mention other suitors to see your reaction or reschedule a meeting at the last moment. This is not always a conscious manipulation, but rather an instinctive way to understand how stable you are within yourself. If in response to the cancellation of plans, you reply with a calm "okay, another time then," and go about your business, you pass this test. If you start to find out the reasons or try to persuade her, you show that your inner world is too fragile and completely depends on her decisions. Attraction is not a subject of negotiation or a result of logical arguments. It is impossible to convince a person to feel an attachment to you by presenting a list of your virtues. Psychology is designed such that pressure always generates resistance and pursuit makes one run away. In order to create the conditions in which attachment arises naturally, it is necessary to develop an abundance mentality within oneself. This does not mean that you need to deceive or play games. It means that your life must be so filled with meaning, hobbies, and goals that no single person can become the sole source of your happiness. When Noah has a favorite occupation, workouts at the gym, and a circle of loyal friends, he does not sit by the window waiting for a call from Emily. He values the time spent with her, but he also values his time spent without her. This autonomy is incredibly attractive because it signals the high value of the man as an individual. People subconsciously want to be part of the story of someone who follows his own path, not someone who stands still and waits to be noticed. The inner freedom that such self-sufficiency gives relieves the need for constant confirmation of one's significance and makes your every action more weightful in the eyes of others. The way you show initiative also holds enormous significance. There is a huge gap between sincere effort and a desperate desire to please. Effort is when Liam plans an interesting date, choosing a place that he himself likes, and invites Chloe to share this experience. Desperation is when he asks her opinion on every minor issue, afraid to make the slightest mistake. A woman wants to see a leader capable of making decisions and bearing responsibility for them, not someone who is constantly looking for her approval. The ability to lead while maintaining respect for her boundaries creates a sense of security on the foundation of which a true emotional connection is built. Acting as the architect of your meetings, you remove the tiresome burden of choice from your partner, allowing her to truly relax and simply enjoy the moment of your presence. Your emotional consistency combined with inner strength is the key to her peace of mind. Consistency does not mean predictability to the point of boredom. It means reliability. She knows that you will write, but she does not know exactly at what minute it will happen. Using windows of availability instead of a 24-hour presence creates that very pleasant anticipation that makes the heart beat faster at the sound of a notification. If you are always available at the first request, you broadcast that your time has no price. But if your attention must be earned, it becomes a valuable prize. A manager of a major project or a person creating something significant physically cannot correspond all day long. Be the person who has a purpose beyond the smartphone screen. The attention of such a man is instinctively perceived as a rare and valuable gift, rather than as something taken for granted, which only strengthens the desire to become part of his unique world. Learn to delay instant gratification. When a message arrives, do not rush to open it immediately. Allow yourself to complete the task at hand. Enjoy a cup of tea or simply look out the window. A tiny delay of 30 minutes changes the entire balance of power. You show that you do not live for these digital signals. Sometimes it is even useful to resume a faded dialogue after a few days with some positive and light topic that will remind her of a pleasant moment spent together. Men who play the long game understand that the space between meetings and messages is not a void, but a place where desire grows. Often a woman begins to show initiative precisely when she feels that you are completely self-sufficient and do not need her constant confirmation. I have seen this pattern hundreds of times. A man meets a girl, writes to her every day, and after 2 weeks, she disappears. The same man meets another, writes less often, but his every word carries weight and is filled with meaning. And after the same 2 weeks, she is already planning their future together. This is not magic and not a trick. It is a deep respect for the psychological laws of scarcity and value. A woman wants to feel special, but she does not want to feel stifled by your attention. She wants to know that you chose her among many other possibilities rather than clutched at her as if she were the only life boy. When your attention becomes scarce, she begins to subconsciously compete for it, which only strengthens her belief in your high social demand. The biggest mistake one can make is to lay out all of one's emotional resources at the start. When you make a woman your priority from day one, you have nowhere to move further. The path of discovery ends before it can begin. Start with moderate interest and allow it to grow as she invests in return. Attachment is a mutual process. People value more what they have invested their own labor and time into. Allow her to take steps toward you. Allow her to invest in your communication. The phone should serve only as a bridge to real meetings, rather than becoming their substitute. Relationships that are built exclusively in the text field often turn out to be a house of cards that collapses at the first encounter with reality. Texts are devoid of intonation, gaze, and touch everything that actually creates chemistry between people. By leaving space for her initiative, you give her the opportunity to feel like an active participant in the process of your getting closer, which makes the final result much more significant for her feelings. It is not worth using correspondence to discuss deep feelings or resolve serious contradictions. For this, personal communication exists where you can see the reaction of the interlocutor and feel their state. True closeness is forged in real situations, in joint walks, conversations over dinner, and quiet moments of contemplation. Your ability to maintain calmness and centeredness in any situation becomes the magnet that pulls her to you. She subconsciously seeks a man with an unshakable inner core who will not break from her whims or life difficulties. This emotional stability is the most powerful aphrodisiac imaginable. A man who remains emotionally stable in moments of uncertainty broadcasts that degree of fundamental reliability that cannot be conveyed using the most beautiful words in a messenger. Your internal frame should be crystal clear. You want to be with her. You enjoy her company, but you will not perish without her. Your life was full before her appearance and will remain the same if she decides to leave. She is a magnificent decoration of your reality, but not its foundation. When you sincerely accept this position, your behavior changes naturally. You stop performing actions out of a fear of loss and begin to act from a state of strength. You do not write too often because you have your own goals. You do not panic over silence because you are busy with work. You do not try to convince anyone because your value is obvious without extra words. A gradual escalation of closeness is a sign of wisdom. In the first week, these can be light and cheerful messages. In the second, slightly more personal topics if you feel mutual interest. In the third, a deeper immersion into each other's worlds. This creates an exciting journey where access to the sacred corners of your soul must be earned. Some people tend to run away from excessive attention, but they always gravitate toward what is at a short distance and requires effort. Understanding this nuance, you will be able to build relationships that will bring joy to both, rather than turning into an endless struggle for territory. Such an approach turns the process of getting to know one another into a fascinating quest, where every new level of trust is perceived as a significant achievement rather than as something taken for granted. The most magnetic behavior is when you are so sincerely involved in creating something significant that you sometimes simply forget about the existence of a smartphone. Your passion for your work, your desire for development, and your devotion to your ideals create an aura around you that is impossible to resist. People want to be near someone who burns with his idea, who builds his own world rather than simply consuming someone else's attention. Attachment grown on the soil of mutual respect for each other's personal space and life goals will always be stronger and more durable than any fleeting infatuation. When your energy is directed toward creation, you create a powerful gravity around you that naturally attracts people striving to share your drive and become part of your large-scale vision. The constant search for external confirmation of one's significance through questions, demands for praise, or offense at a lack of attention is a direct path to the destruction of interest. True confidence is quiet and does not need loud statements. It manifests in how you hold a pause, how you react to criticism, and how you respect someone else's right to their own life. Security in a relationship should not turn into boredom, and stability into predictability down to the smallest detail. Leave room for spontaneity, for unexpected decisions, and for that very share of understatement that keeps the fire of curiosity alive. It is precisely this fine line between fundamental reliability and enticing unpredictability that creates that very sparkling interest that does not allow feelings to cool, even after long years of a shared path. Mastering the art of communication in the digital age is above all mastering oneself. It is the understanding that your every action and your every word carries a certain signal about your inner strength. A real emotional connection does not tolerate haste. It is like a rare plant that needs time, proper lighting, and most importantly, space for growth. Do not try to flood it with the water of excessive attention, or the roots will rot before the first flowers appear. Let the relationship breathe, Give the woman the opportunity to want to take a step toward you herself. And when she realizes that your attention is not a cheap resource given out to all who want it, but a valuable reward for her own investments, her attachment will become truly deep and unbreakable. Your restraint in response to her signals creates a kind of vacuum that she instinctively strives to fill with her own thoughts and feelings about you. In the moments of your silence, she begins to realize the value of every moment spent in dialogue, turning ordinary communication into a privilege. Thus, you stop being just a line in a contact list and become a significant figure whose presence in her life requires conscious effort. Many women have admitted that they truly fell in love at the very moment when they realized that the man did not need them. He chose them, he valued them, he enjoyed every minute together, but his happiness was not in their hands. This created a dynamic in which they themselves constantly sought to invest in the relationship in order to remain a part of this strong and independent reality. Choice is always stronger than obligation, and a voluntary desire to be near is more valuable than any imposed loyalty. Play the long game, remain true to your principles, and do not be afraid of silence, for it is in it that the most important realizations are born. Your life is a unique project, and those worthy of becoming a part of it will surely appreciate your ability to maintain your individuality. A man who has found inner harmony and does not seek salvation from loneliness in a partner radiates a confidence that is impossible to resist. This foundation of self-sufficiency guarantees that your relationship will be built on genuine inspiration rather than on attempts to fill inner voids at the expense of another. Ultimately, it is precisely this ability to remain a whole being that makes you that very companion to whom one wants to hold on despite any life circumstances. I am very interested to know your opinion and your personal experience. Have you noticed how a person's attitude changes when you reduce the intensity of your presence? Have there been cases when it was your calmness in response to coldness that became the reason for a sudden surge of interest from the other side? Share your stories in the comments below this video. It is important that we learn to see these patterns, not for the sake of manipulation, but for the sake of building honest and harmonious unions where everyone respects the boundaries of the other. Subscribe to the Freedom Forge channel to discover new facets of the human soul together and learn to see the world as it actually is without filters and illusions. Your awareness is the only path to true freedom and success in all spheres of life, including the most complex and beautiful one, the sphere of human relations. Remember that your time and your attention are the most expensive things you have, and only you decide to whom and in what volume to give them. Start valuing yourself right now, and the surrounding world will inevitably respond to you in kind.